Michael. Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Focus on Australia with Aquarius Rising Australia. And I am beyond delighted to finally meet face-to-face Fiona Barnett. I was just saying, Fiona, you were I can't even remember how many years ago it was, but it was many years ago when I first came across one of your interviews, the stuff you made me aware of then. And one of the things that I remember hearing was the kiddies hunting. It shocked me into another blood group, I'll tell you that much. And it's just been so amazing, over the past year and a bit that we've been having this channel, Aquarius Rising Africa, sort of giving a platform to overcomers and people using their voices to tell their stories. And here you are. It's really such a pleasure. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do. And I'm just going to hand over to you and my gorgeous Gabby again, and I'll chime in wherever necessary, but would love to hear what you have to say today.
Thank you. Thank you for knowing who I am and knowing my work and my legacy and all that sort of thing. Absolutely. A lot of people, like I say, a lot of people don't know who I am. And I was just saying that, people would send me stuff because I've been offline for 2 years and a lot's happened in 2 years. And then people send me stuff, go, oh, have you heard this? And I go, yeah, I wrote that 7 years ago. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm being forgotten by the new generation of woke people.
I don't know even how that's even possible, but you are definitely one of the first people, if not the first that I know of, that came out and told your story. And I can imagine that could not have been easy for you. You must have been targeted.
No, I was targeted beyond belief. I was targeted by police. I was targeted by ASIO. I was chased around when I went to make statements in Sydney after doing my national press conference about this stuff in 2015. I stood outside of the Federal Child Abuse Royal Commission building and I told the world. And then the next level of hell began, and I was chased around when I ran down to make 2 days of police witness statements. I was chased around Sydney by T4 ASIO officers, and that was interesting. So my story, basically you can get it for free. You can download it from a number of sites like Kathy Fox's blog, and it's on archive.org, it's on Bitcoin, and my site fionabarnett.org that had years and years and years of stuff, and I just got jack of it all 2 years ago. And I put up a few things I feel comfortable doing. A lot of legislation's changed since I posted years ago. It's a lot of, you're not allowed to say anything about politicians anymore. They've changed the law. But other people host my book. I don't host it. And it's all around the world. And I released it for free so that I figured CIA can't herd cats. And I got it out there and it's been downloaded. I don't know how many millions of times now. Really, it would have been downloaded around the world since I put it up there in beginning of 2019, I think, when I first published it.
It's such an incredible book. Your eyes wide open, just revealing like the international structure, and it was ahead of its time. Like, I think people are just catching up now. So if you haven't read it, please download it. It just really explains the depth of this depravity and how it's
the connections between everything. And you need the 2020 lockdown edition because there's a third more book for the dollar you don't pay. It really better explains things, and I put a lot more information there about the MK Ultra perpetrators. You had Wendy Louise Walker at the University of Sydney. I tie things up a bit, tie things in together. You got Jerry Boykin, the head of Delta, the Delta commander that I was under. Because what people don't understand, back then, like, I released things to the public, I thought, well, what can I get away with now? I couldn't go bang and hey, Australia had a child soldier program, 8-9 years ago. I just started with a little bit, just ritual abuse, and I attacked the Wood Royal Commission, and I'm the first one to bring that up again, the contents of the Wood Royal Commission that John Howard sealed for 99 years, and I set about to expose what happened to Derek Boy's home, and I'm the reason Derek Boy's home even got investigated by the cops. I pushed that, went around collecting witness statements, and I sent them off to the police and the special police group that was connected to the Royal Commission, and led to, I opened the way for boys to be able to get compensation for that. I exposed, I was running around exposing evidence, exposing a big New South Wales Education Department child trafficking ring. I was doing that in 2004. I was running around the streets and driving around and collecting witness statements with an old laptop and an old printer and getting people's statements there before they chickened out and send it all to the Australian newspaper and all that sort of thing. And, I had a nightmare with all of that. And, ended with cops pulling my husband over and holding guns to his head on the side of the highway and them ambushing 3 family homes to make me shut up. That was all back in 2005. And I paid a high price, but I think I was doing it all to make up for, to expose, to give a name to the kids that I saw murdered, the kids I saw bred in captivity by the Australian government underneath Holsworthy for the purpose of MK Ultra and the Super Soldier program that was moved to Australia to Pine Gap. Pine Gap was the big head of the Super Soldier program. They had a big underground facility at Pine Gap. Same people who built Pine Gap built Dulce and in America. And Dulce was the MK Ultra laboratory headquarters for America.
Wow.
There's a lot.
I couldn't believe that, so much of this has happened in Australia as well. And
it was the headquarters.
Yeah.
The headquarters. So the CIA brought MK Ultra to Australia in 1960 when the head CIA psychiatrist, Martin Orne, came out and did a 2.5-month sabbatical at the University of Sydney. That's where it all began. And you had the Madsen building at the University of Sydney. That was where the CSIRO had its headquarters. And you had Eric Traub, the head of Nazi bioweapons, was brought out under Operation Matchbox. And you had Leonis Petrauskas, whose father was like second in charge of the Soviet Union. And Leonis was a Nazi doctor from Lithuania. He came out. He was mates with Anthony Kidman and Wendy Louise Walker and all these people trained under Martin Orne as well in unethical hypnosis. They went on to run, Kidman and Wendy Louise Walker went on to run the lab underneath the south end of Holsworthy Army Base, where they had kids in cages there. They had 7-story underground facility with a Freemason black and white checker, floor, marble floor with the encircled pentagram, and they weaponized the occult. So you had the people in charge of all of this, the religious group, were the Rosicrucians, and that's who the Rothschilds are in. And the Rosicrucians are the pinnacle of the order, which involves Freemasons, Order of the Eastern Star, OTO. OTO had its headquarters in the Wentworth building at the University of Sydney in the student services area,
Wow.
recruiting kids for their dirty, filthy works, So people wonder about, what's the link between the occult and the military and MK Ultra? Well, MK Ultra was a weaponization of the occult knowledge that Hitler sent his scouts out gathering from all over the world. And they weaponized psychic ability, and they selected kids who had the greatest potential at all what they were looking after. Kids who were best subjects for hypnosis and best subjects for practical mental influence, and the kids with a very strong right hemispheric processing ability, and that was high IQ kids and Aryan kids with the strongest constitution. Blue-eyed blonde kids have a very strong constitution, and so they're looking for kids preferably even better from the Levite bloodline, because they have an extra good ESP ability, which they can then weaponize.
Levi bloodline? Can you explain that to me? The Levi bloodline?
Oh, it's just one of the Jewish bloodlines. So it is funny because I never heard anything about. I said that for years. And the Jason Project were after the kids, the Levites, and the high IQ Levites. It was on, someone sent me something, said, I heard it being said on Israeli News Live, with that Ben someone. And he was talking about, he knew guys in the Israeli army, and this one guy from the Levites who was high IQ, they tried to recruit him into the Super Soldier Project. And I'm there going, I'm the first person who said that 30 years ago that I know of in my world, you know. So, yeah, there are criteria for the Super Soldier program, and they were stealing everyone's genetic material. So the relevance of high IQ kids is high IQ kids, when they perform a cognitive task, both hemispheres light up. Average IQ kids, only the left hemisphere lights up. So right hemisphere is the seat of interdimensional processing ability and astral projection, all that sort of thing, which is what the Kabbalistic tree of life is based on. Okay, so the MK Ultra programming structure that Josef Mengele devised and extracted from the people in Auschwitz and, you know, there's the death camps, that came straight from Babylon, and that knowledge. And the Kabbalistic tree of life is the foundation of all the orders, right? All the Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn, Rosicrucian Order, Freemasons and all that. They all have the same sort of themes, worship the same gods, and they stem from ancient Egypt, Babylon, and whatever. And the practices from those ancient mystery religions is what was weaponized, collected and weaponized by the Nazis and by Mengele. And Mengele never died. He came to Australia, and he worked in Australia out of he had a lab underneath the US Embassy that down in Canberra, and he had a lab on Milton Island in the Hawkesbury River that was owned by the Army. It used to be owned by the Army. There's a rec camp there since I talked about it, but, you know, and he mainly worked in those facilities. And it was there under Holsworthy, but mainly there's others. And, of course, overseas in America.
Wow. Oh, quite crazy. I would like to maybe ask you if you could just give, for the benefit of our viewers as well, your beginnings. How did this occur to you right from the beginning?
So I'm second generation MK Ultra. My father was raised in one of the camps in Germany, and they wanted him. They took him for experiments then. He was a little blue-eyed blonde kid, and high IQ, and they wanted him. So he came out to Australia, I don't know, was he 4 or 5 or something? At the end of the war, they had Operation Matchbox, brought out a whole bunch of Nazi war criminals, and they brought out a whole bunch of, if people could offer information, then they gave them asylum in Australia. So my Nazi war criminal step-grandfather, and I don't even think she's my grandmother, I'd say that she just took my father and used him as a prop, just as she used her husband that she wasn't married to. She lied to the authorities and said, "Oh, this is my son. This is the father of my child." And the step grandfather, he wanted to go to Canada. He didn't want to come to Australia, but he was, they forced him to go to here. And so they came out, and a whole bunch of them settled in Sydney, in the Southern Shire, in Wollongong area, Bathurst. Bathurst, they had a big camp out there where all the refugees were brought, so-called refugees, Nazi war criminals, brought out from, the Slavic countries, because the greatest number of Nazi war criminals were Slavic. They weren't even German that came to Australia. So they came out, and they had a whole established network already. My grandmother, Lithuanian grandmother, was really good friends with a guy called Leonis Petraskas, and Leonis Petraskas was a Nazi doctor whose father, Kypros Petraskas, was very high up in the Soviet Union. And so Leonis was a secret communist. So they had this fifth column come into Australia, and you had a number of people involved in this whole network connected to Leonis Petraskas. Leonis lived in Engadine, where my grandmother lived. Engadine's next door to Engadine Boys Town, Australia's first boys town, where they recruited victims from. It's down the road from Holsworthy Army Base, where they had the underground labs, and Australia's first army base. Next door to Lucas Heights Nuclear Reactor, where they had a 20-story CSIRO laboratory system in ANSTO, nuclear reactor. And ANSTO nuclear reactor is registered to America, to a company in America. And the people who built ANSTO nuclear reactor also built Pine Gap. And it was all to do with the 1951 security alliance between Australia and America and so forth. So you had this Cold War effort, MK Ultra program, where the Russians were competing with the Americans and English and us to develop a super soldier. So they recruited kids like me. So being second generation, I already had, you inherit trauma down to like the fourth and whatever generation. And kids who are high IQ are very easily hypnotizable. We dissociate more easily. We can better visualize things in our heads because the right hemisphere is more active and more interconnected. We're better at being trained in astral projection. If you've got a very strong visual spatial ability, makes you good at language acquisition, makes you and makes you faster, your reaction time faster. So there's a perfect correlation between scores on comprehensive IQ tests and administered by someone who knows what they're doing, there's very few of them, and reaction time. So if you puff of air in my eye, how long does it take for me to react and close my eye? There's a perfect correlation. So the whole thing, what the military knew is, and when you join the military, the first thing they do is IQ test you. What they know is that IQ corresponds with, really good, a bit higher potential at being a good sniper. You're a better shot, better at driving a tank, better at